So if you're moving to China, you might actually be moving to Chongqing, especially if you work for any major company here, such as Ford or LG, Samsung, or a language training school such as EF. So I just kind of want to go over the important parts of the city with you. So Chongqing is an extremely huge city. It's located in southwest China. It's growing bigger every single day due to the influx of migrants coming from the countryside to work in the city. So Chongqing attracts people from all parts of China, all parts of the world to come work here. And the city itself, unlike Chengdu, unlike Beijing, it's a mountain city. So everywhere you go, it's just mountains, mountains, mountains. So the bad part about this is you can't really ride a bike here because you'd just be going up and down all the time. So whereas in Chengdu, Beijing, they have bike lanes, you can ride a bike, but here it's just not really possible. There are two rivers that flow in the main part of Chongqing, the main city, which is the Jialing, which is extremely green, extremely clean. And then you have the Yangtze River, which is, you know, one of the longest rivers in the world, but it's very muddy and a little bit dirty looking. And there's actually a point where Chongqing comes to a head and those two rivers will cross each other. And the two colors don't really mix, so it's a pretty cool thing to see. So the weather in Chongqing is really interesting to say the least. That's kind of why I'm recording right now, kind of late, like it's 5 p.m. now. That's why I'm recording here so late, is because today is one of the only days where it's not extremely hot and it's not raining, because on summer days it can get way up to like 35 degrees and the sun is just shining really hot, and some days it will just rain, so it switches up very fast. But today is kind of a moderate day. So this summer it's already gotten up to about 35 degrees Celsius about 3 times already. So it makes it very difficult to go outside. And then if you do go outside, it can feel like you're walking into a stuffy room, just because that's how it is here. It's a very humid city. And then combined with the sun, it just, when you walk outside, it feels like walking into a stuffy room. It's actually starting to rain now, so I kind of have to hurry up. But in winter, it doesn't really snow either, because we're on the same longitude as Mexico, so it doesn't really snow here. But it did snow this year, which was a very rare occurrence. It was like the first time in 20-25 years. But also during summer, it will get extremely hot, sometimes into the mid-20s Celsius in the winter time, which is like, wow, is this even winter, you know? And then CQ itself is a very green city. Like behind me you can see all this green, and we have a lot of lakes and rivers as well. Like I'm sitting at a lake inside a university, and then the university next door, which is my university, also has a lake. So we've got tons and tons of lakes and rivers. Chongqing also has another name, which is like the fog capital, just because in the morning it can get really extremely foggy. And some people mistake this for smog, but if you wait like 2 hours it will go away. But I have seen it where it looks like Silent Hill outside just because of how foggy it is. And then the smog is mostly a winter problem. Like in the summer it's usually very light to non-existent, but in winter it can get much worse, but that's because people are using their heating, you know, and China of course gets its heating from burning coal, so it's mostly a winter problem. But then usually in the winter it doesn't really get so bad that you have to wear a mask. This winter it only got so bad I had to wear a mask maybe 3 times in the span of people in the South have this stereotype that people in the South are much more friendly and open and just much nicer people than people in the North, you know? And even personally, when I was in Beijing airport, I didn't really feel well received. People didn't want to seem to help me very much, and their dialect just sounds very harsh. And then in Chongqing, when I got here, people were willing to lend me their cell phones. They, you know, just were way more willing to help me, and even their dialect here, it just sounds much softer on the ears. And also, whenever I mention that I live in Chongqing, people always seem to say, no matter what part of China they're from, that, oh, the girls there are the prettiest in China. Like, did you know that? But I feel like every province would say this about, you know, their own people, like, oh, ours are the prettiest, ours are the most handsome. So it's just another stereotype that may or may not have a basis. The jobs in Chongqing are luckily very easy to come by. There's so many training schools here that are willing to give out work visas for qualified workers, and there's also many people looking for like a personal tutor for their child, which is what me and a lot of other students prefer to do because it pays more. And you have more free time when you personally tutor. You can pick your own schedule. We also have many other foreign companies here, probably the biggest being Ford, and they're probably the biggest because they actually have their own metro stop. And then we also have South Korean companies such as like LG, Samsung, SK. But to work at any of these foreign companies, you usually need to either be Chinese or you have to work for these companies in your own country, and then they send you here, which is why Chongqing has such a high American population, is because of Ford. My university hires a lot of foreign teachers because we are a foreign language university, and if any other universities are hiring, it's usually for an English teacher. Chongqing does have one international school now. They used to have two, but one just closed down due to not having so many students. So if you want to work at an international school, Chongqing may not be the best choice because we only have one and it's British and they're not hiring so much. Food in Chongqing is almost exactly the same as food in Sichuan and Hunan provinces, which is spicy and oily basically. So you need to expect that about 99% of the time your food is going to be spicy. But if people see that you're a foreigner, they may ask you if you want it spicy or not. And then we also have this flavor which is called ma in Chinese, which is a numbing spice. It comes from the Sichuan huajiao, and it makes your mouth feel numb, which it's actually one of my favorite feelings. You also need to kind of expect that your food is definitely going to be oily. It seems like there's really no food that isn't just coated in oil. And this is kind of a trend throughout all of southern China except Guizhou province that I've noticed. Guizhou uses a lot less oil than Sichuan, Hunan, Hubei provinces. Personally, to us foreigners, it may seem that Chinese really go way, way, way overboard with their oil, which is definitely true. If you ever have tried hot pot, which Chongqing is actually extremely famous for, I also made a video about that. You're basically taking your food and dipping it in oil to cook it, then you're taking it out and you're dipping it in sesame oil. So it's just oil upon oil upon oil, and it can get very overwhelming actually. Some famous foods from Chongqing are liangmian, which is a cold noodle, which is extremely popular during summer. I really, really like it. It only costs 5 yuan no matter where you go. And it's it's cooked noodles, but it's cold and it's just mixed together with a bunch of spices. It tastes really good. And then also Kung Pao chicken, which everyone's heard of, and sweet and sour pork, which you can buy at Panda Express actually. You should also be aware that no matter where you go in Chongqing, no matter what restaurant you go to, it's all gonna kind of have the same food, which as a foreigner I get tired of extremely fast, but I'm not the only one. A lot of Chinese people here I've noticed that come from other provinces, and even Chongqing people themselves, they do get tired of the food just because it's all the same thing no matter where you go. So there's really kind of a lack of variety in the food here. And then foreign food, there is a lot of foreign food here actually. We have Burger King, McDonald's, KFC, of course, like every place in China. I'm gonna go this way, it's dark over there. And then we also do have very authentic Western restaurants as well, but these prices are much higher than the Chinese food. Chinese food can cost anywhere from less than $1 USD to, you know, maybe $2 or $3. Whereas Western food is going to cost you about $8 to $10, which is about the same prices in America. If you're trying to live cheaply, you can, but you might get tired of the food. And then even other foods from other provinces in China, it's a little bit hard to come by. You know, like a lot of Americans at least may not understand this, but when you go to a different province, even a different city, you will get different foods. So Chongqing kind of has its own food, Sichuan its own food, Hunan, Hubei their own foods. The most diverse I've ever seen is Guizhou food, which personally is my favorite. And there is Guizhou food in Chongqing, but it is a little more expensive than the Chongqing food. So if you're trying to save money, just eat the Chongqing food, but you may end up extremely annoyed with the lack of choices. So the main thing I do want to talk about is the standard of living in Chongqing, which, to be honest, it's not as high as in other parts of China, but it is higher than most parts. So it's like a second tier city on China's city rating scale. So when you come here, you really do get the feeling that you're in a developing country and not a developed country. Unlike when you go to Beijing or Chengdu or Shanghai, you get the feeling that you're in a developed, modernized country. So the reason I say this is because Chongqing is all high 20-story buildings everywhere you go, absolutely everywhere. It just looks like a maze. And a lot of these, once they build them, they don't really take care of them unless you live in a residential community. So wherever you go, you can kind of see really kind of ugly buildings. And then when you go inside, some of them don't have lights that work. Some of them are just plain and boring and just ugly. And they don't have all the amenities that maybe an American house would have, or a house in Chengdu or Beijing would have. Another way that you can kind of tell the standard of living isn't as high is when you go outside, even in front of where I live, literally right where I live, you can walk outside and just see construction. But this isn't a bad thing in itself, I think. You know, like everywhere in the world does construction, but the way they do it in unsafe manner. Like, they don't take any extra precautions. They won't hide the construction from people. They won't put up any barriers. So people may be walking on plywood planks over maybe like a kind of deep hole, and it can get kind of dangerous. Some people work without gloves. I've seen people weld using no gloves and just sunglasses. Outside my building, they haven't even fixed. It's been like this for maybe 2.5 months, and they haven't even fixed it at all. They dug really big holes and they didn't put back the tiles, so now we just have this big gaping hole that snakes all along the side of 3 buildings actually, because my building is connected with 2 others. And this is kind of disappointing because where I live is actually a tourist attraction, and when people get off the metro, they will look out and then just see all this ugly, you know, like dirt, basically, big piles of dirt. So it's just kind of disheartening to see this type of thing, which I've never actually seen in Chengdu or in any other city in China. However, not everything is so bad. Of course, we have an extremely developed transportation system. The bus system is amazing. You go outside and you look at the bus station map schedule, and it will tell you where the next stops are, where it came from, and where it's going. And this is extremely helpful for maybe when I'm in an unfamiliar part of the city. I just go to the bus map and then I look for something familiar near where I live or near a place near a metro station, and it's easy. I can just get on a bus in 5 minutes and, you know, head to where I want to go. Whereas in Hawaii, where I'm from, to go like 5 miles, I had to wait like an hour and a half for a bus. But here, I never really wait more than 5-10 minutes. So this is something that I just love so much. And it is something that I think a developed city has. So all cities in China have a developed bus system like this. And then we have the metro system, which is extremely large, extremely helpful. I'm riding this thing every day. And then tickets for the bus are 2 yuan, which is less than 50 cents American. And then tickets for the metro can go anywhere from 2 yuan to 6 yuan. But usually it stays between 2 to 5 yuan. So about 50 cents a ride. So it's extremely useful. It goes all over the city. You can buy a card which you can use on both the buses and the metro. So when you get off the metro, you can just transfer to a bus, and then you also get one free transfer. So if you get off the metro, then you get on a bus, you will get a free bus. Or if you get off the bus and get on the metro, you will get either a free to much cheaper metro ticket, which is extremely useful. Then of course, at many metro stations and bus stops, you will have maybe 1 to 3 huge giant malls. So this is one thing I really like. If I want to go to a mall, I really don't have to go very far, because it's just humongous mall upon humongous mall, all right next to each other, which a little bit it is overkill, but like they're the biggest malls I've ever seen in my whole life. Even probably they have maybe 2 or 3 in this city bigger than Mall of America. It's crazy, and they're popping up everywhere. So this is something I really like. Just to end on a happy note, Chongqing to me is actually a very special city. Though sometimes I may talk negatively about it, I really do like it here. And as someone living with social anxiety, it was an extreme challenge when I first got here. I did not want to leave my hotel room. I didn't want to do anything. Just because, you know, I'm intimidated. And so now living in Chongqing, it's for the most part helped me get over my social anxiety. And I don't know if that would have happened if I lived in Chengdu, which is a less challenging, much quieter city, you know. And then once you get used to the city, you'll be like amazed. You'll just be amazed by it. There's so many places you can live, different styles of residential communities. We've also got humongous, the biggest malls you've ever seen at almost every metro station. And it's just amazing, because if you want to go to a mall, you don't really have to go very far. It's not like America where there's like 1 or 2 malls per city, or where I live, we only had 3 malls on my island, I believe. So it's not like that at all. In Chongqing, you can go to a mall like instantly. And Chongqing actually hosts several of Asia's largest things. Like we have Asia's largest LCD screen, which is actually just recently built, and we also have Asia's largest or longest escalator. So if you think that everything's bigger in Texas, like, you won't believe how big everything is in Chongqing.